Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll bring your music up. Just make sure you've got your original sound going. I'm making sure the live stream starts, so we've got the broadcast of
Hold
your
on.
performance. Okay.
Hmm? Turn it on.
Aha. All right, we are all set, Risha. I'm going to share your music, so whenever you're ready to start, you can go ahead and start. Okay.
Turn it on, Risha.
Mhm. You can start whenever you're ready. Okay.
Power. Okay. Um. Go ahead. Here, give me a sec. Actually, I don't think I was supposed to play the last line.
Oh, that's all right. That sounded great. Okay. That's all right. The last line sounded great. It's mostly counting. So, as you've been preparing this piece, what's kind of the trickiest thing been about learning this piece?
Counting it.
Counting, yeah. Right when it gets towards the end. Yeah. Um, I thought this went you had this very well. Your hands were coordinated, you had all the notes, and it sounded like the rhythms were you understood the rhythms. So I think so let's talk about one thing because I know you might have to go here in a minute. Um let me and you've got you know what your music looks like. So um I'm just going to ask you. So let me show you what's sort of tricky about this. So in the beginning, right? So we're going to say our um your the time signature that they give you at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
is what?
2 by 4.
Yeah, 2/4, right? And that's mostly about the time signature tells you how you're going to read the written notes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, what this is telling you is right is the way that they wrote the way that the piece is written. You are going to see the quarter note is going to be kind of your counting note, and there's going to be two quarter notes in every measure, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's telling you about how to read the written music. Now, so let's check out the beginning though. So when we're in the beginning, the melody in your right hand is mostly what kind of note?
Eighth notes.
Yeah. So your right hand, right? The melody is mostly moving in eighth notes. Are those going to sound faster or slower than quarter notes?
Faster.
Right. So faster. Right. So I'm just going to build a little map here and I'm just going to do two measures, right? So, and your left hand, what kind of notes does your left hand have?
I think there's half notes and quarter notes.
Yeah. So, and I'll put our quarter notes in. So that's your, in this time signature, you know that your quarter note is going to be kind of the counting note. And a half note, notice, is going to be 2 quarter notes long, basically. Right. So I'll put a little just to kind of remind you. Okay. So the reason I'm doing all this, right? At the beginning of the piece, right, your right hand is mostly eighth notes, and your left hand has some quarter note rests and quarter notes and some half notes. There's a good mix, but mostly, right, your piece that is living in this area, right? So it's dealing with a little bit faster kinds of, or not, I don't want to say faster, but shorter notes. So that makes it sound like there's a lot of movement. We're moving very fast. Now, as you get to the very last line of the piece, notice we move mostly into this area. Right. So it's going to, maybe when you're playing it, when you're counting it, it might feel like we're moving more slowly. Right. So there's a feeling that suddenly it's going to sound like we're moving slower. So the challenge when you're practicing this, and I think you worked with this counting wise, is to in your head really keep track of we could say the counting pulse is probably the most important thing, right? 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's probably what you're thinking of at this, right? The last measures of the piece, the final line. I would say, if you want to be even more precise, instead of thinking of just the quarter note pulse, think in your head of the eighth note pulse from the beginning of the piece. So imagine that you've got this stream of eighth notes going at the very end. Okay, so if you remember this sort of tree, that you keep all of those layers in your head at the same time, even if you're only playing one. So let's try that real quick. Can you try the very last line, maybe from the last measure of this line? Can you see that okay?
This?
Right, so
should I count it?
Yeah, and I want you to count 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Does that make sense? So you're counting even the little eighth note pulse. That will keep it really
So
precise.
I should count it like.
Yep.
Like.
2. Yeah.
Like 1 and 2 and, or 1 and 2 and.
Does that make sense? Can you see the written in? Yeah. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Does that make sense?
So
Can you try that to the end? And I know it might be a little bit tricky.
1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and
Mm-hmm.
is then oh,
Mm-hmm.
and two and one and two and one and two. Oh,
Yeah, no, that's right. You're right. Yep.
one and two and
One.
and two and one and two and
Great. Okay. That was great, Risha. So that's how I would recommend when you're learning, when you've got a piece like this, right? Where the one part of it is very busy, so you have all these eighth notes in the melody, and then there's another part of the piece that's in the same, right? The tempo does not change, but you have longer notes being used. It can feel like it's suddenly going like too slow in the back, right? In the back of your mind,
yeah.
it feels like it's too slow. One important way that you can kind of work against that and keep yourself rhythmically stable is think about that faster pulse that's not there anymore. Use that in your head, or like counting aloud like you just did.
Mm-hmm.
That will kind of help your mind feel like those longer notes are still like alive, right? It really helps you measure out those longer notes in your head and keep the music sounding alive while you're playing those longer notes. Exactly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and this was sounding great. So really nice work today, Risha. Thanks for coming. I'll see you later, okay?
Okay.
Great work. Thank you.